Welcome back, crew. Captain Foley and Commander Calkins on your screens once again to tell you about another awesome ship. This ship was requested by one of our Indiegogo supporters, Mr. Jake Pelletier, who will also be joining us for this guest episode. Welcome aboard, Jake.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Great to have you.
Jake is just going to be audio only because we had a few problems with his end on the Skype aspect of things. So there's a nice picture of Jake there looking all handsome, and you'll be able to hear him throughout the whole thing. So. All right, now this is sort of a Frankensteinish mashup of various ship parts, but was indeed seen on screen a few times during DS9, so it is definitely a canon ship. This is also a ship that was the design influence for the new USS ARES as seen in Axanar. So without any further delay, we proudly bring you the Centaur-class.
Very late introduction to the ship, because I have to do the whole model play around, but yeah. Sorry, so that is right. As you just mentioned, the ship is in fact Alec Peters' favourite ship design and was a huge influence on him when it came time for Sean Tourangeau and himself to design the Ares, as you said, for the upcoming Axanar feature-length film. So we can thank this ship for inspiring another cool design.
And the Centaur design is an Excelsior-class ship variant and is listed as a medium cruiser or destroyer and was initially considered a prototype, but soon entered production and served in the Dominion War with great distinction. Later, getting the assignment of Deep Intruder, a special mission ship for infiltration into enemy territory.
Again, as we have discovered with numerous ships that we look at here on Trekyards, various sources state different sizes for this space frame, with the Deep Space Nine technical manual listing the length at 381.87 meters, but the newer Eaglemoss ship information uses a length of 210 meters. As well as size discrepancies, we also find different histories for this vessel, with some stating that it was constructed prior to the Dominion War, shortly after Excelsior went into production in the late 23rd century, and other sources stating that it was in fact a direct response to the heavy losses sustained in the early part of the Dominion War.
That's a hell of a size difference. 381 to 210. Oh. Yeah, so regardless of the size and historical discrepancies of the ship, it has 16 decks and a crew of about 315, with 40 officers and 16 dedicated marines, which was generally used as a boarding party or for infiltration actions. The original design brief for the ship was a medium-sized ship capable of performing around 85% of the Excelsior-class mission's capabilities, while requiring fewer resources and having shorter build time.
And the normal cruising speed was warp 6, with a maximum speed of warp 8.5. However, the ship was capable of doing warp 9.6 for 12 hours. Warp core power plant was rated at over 1,500 Cochrane units.
The ship's armament consisted of 9 Type 9 phaser banks and 2 torpedo launchers, one fore and one aft. In later years, despite complications integrating newly designed phaser strips, a problem which was eventually rectified, the weapons were updated and increased to 18 phaser strips and 4 torpedo launchers, consisting of 2 fore and 2 aft.
Powerful ship. The name Centaur was of course taken from the ancient Earth mythology and referred to the half-man, half-horse creature, and this is likely due to the hodgepodge of parts used for its construction, which makes a lot of sense, and you would have thought I'd noticed that earlier, but it never really occurred to me. After heavy losses inflicted to the Federation in the early part of the Dominion War, the need for ships was desperate, so this design consisted of partial builds, salvage components, and serviceable warp engines, thus resulting in a hybrid appearance.
And this usage of various parts and components that were already proven on other starships meant that the research and development stages of this design were minimal. The Centaur was able to be rushed into production and also easily repaired when the need arose.
Initially assigned to general support missions during fleet operations, the ship proved very effective in border patrol duties and anti-piracy activities, as well as valuable asset as a convoy escort for supporting larger vessels in combat environments. The ship soon proved itself very capable and was later assigned deep intruder duties, which included penetrating enemy territory to either do surveillance or intelligence gathering, or sabotage and hit and runs on enemy supply facilities or convoys.
And as such, the ship was loaded with ECM, or electronic countermeasures equipment, which essentially rendered the ship very difficult to detect with standard scanning methods employed by Dominion or Cardassian fleets. The ECM equipment, as well as the extreme long-range sensor pallets, are all easily seen as the copper-coloured arrays behind the bridge module, right there, and similar coloured turrets above the impulse engines, which are also there. They're all there.
I know the copper ones are behind the... There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, there and there.
The Centaur-class effectively replaced the old Shiva-class destroyers and was very likely designed with influences from the hugely successful Ares-class, first seen in the 4-Year War, as it was itself designed and rushed into service during the wartime to face the Klingon threat.
At least in canon, anyway. Here in the real world, we know the exact opposite is true, with the Centaur design heavily influencing the Ares design. So, yeah.
Time paradox, almost.
Yes, it's predestination paradox, as it were.
And the Centaur also borrowed heavily from the wildly successful Miranda-class, but was based on the new Excelsior components coming out because these shipyards were building most Excelsior-class at the time.
It's also worth pointing out at this point that there is a TOS-style ship, very similar in design, which could in fact be part of the design lineage also, called the Anton-class. However, onto the ship at hand. The ship does not carry a lot of equipment or supplies for long-term exploration or diplomatic missions, but instead is a very mission-specific ship which relies on a lot of automation, which cuts back on the number of crew and personnel required for day-to-day operations.
I'd be interested to see what it looks like inside a Centaur then, if it's mostly automated, although 315 crew for that. I don't know. Anyway, the ship's design also featured an ejectable lower deck configuration which contained the antimatter pods. The entirety of the bottom 2 decks could actually be attached in conjunction with warp core ejection, making the antimatter still left in the ship easy to recover should the pods not explode. Yeah. Because of this feature, the ship did not actually have a warp ejection port on the lower side of the ship, and you can see basically this whole bottom section of the ship can just be ejected off, which is pretty interesting.
And one very cool design choice made in this ship was its forward-facing shuttle bay just in front of the bridge module on the top of the saucer. This design allowed for rapid deployment of attack and rescue craft. Standard shuttle complement consisted of 2 Razor-class interceptor fighters, 2 Type 15 shuttle pods, and 2 Type 6 shuttles. The larger shuttle bay layout incorporated in this design also allowed for more vessels, should the mission require them, however.
Later variants of this design, such as the Vector and Solaris class, also had rear-facing shuttle bays as well as more room, and an upper sensor pod.
So we see the USS Centaur, NCC 42043, commanded by Captain Charlie Reynolds in the DS9 episode A Time to Stand, where he faced off against Cisco in that stolen Jem'Hadar ship, and doesn't fare too well.
Now, the USS Centaur operated out of Base 375, along with the 2nd and 5th Fleets, and even helped retake Deep Space Nine from the Cardassians.
Okay, now it's time for some behind-the-scenes type knowledge. This ship was designed by Adam Buckner and built by an FX team, quite literally out of spare model parts they had just lying around, which consisted mainly of 2 AMT Excelsiors and 1 AMT Reliant model kits. It has a Reliant bridge, roll bar, and torpedo launcher on an Excelsior saucer with, of course, Excelsior engines. A very clever use of parts.
So, Stuart, I mean, I've got to ask you a question sort of off script here. Since it's sort of a hodgepodge of stuff, when you look at the ship, do you see it as a hodgepodge because you're in a model build, or do you see it as its own separate entity?
I actually see it as its own separate entity. A lot of ships look very kitbashy to me when they are kitbashed. This one doesn't. It has a very nice, sleek feel to it, and I think they did a great job on it.
I'd love to see you try and reverse engineer it, though, with those kits. That'd be fun. The model was too small to light, however, so instead they painted the litter pairs, the nacelles and the windows, with a UV paint, and did several beauty passes, each highlighting different visual aspects of the lighting. So a very cool creative solution to a serious problem. It's also worth noting this is literally one of the very last physical models ever built for Star Trek, since they moved to CG pretty much around then, as they were, well, all the later models were pretty much seen with CGI, so this is one of the last.
The ship first appeared in the Deep Space Nine Season 5, Episode 26, A Call to Arms.
As I mentioned earlier, the Star Trek video game Legacy revealed this ship type was in service as early as the 23rd century, late 2280s to be exact, making its service length from the 2280s straight through until the early 2400s. While the Deep Space Nine technical manual listed them as among the first ships which could be easily and quickly constructed from rearranged parts for the Dominion War. So take that for what you will and decide for yourself when they came into service. But I'll discuss a little bit more about that in a minute when we move on to the discussion part of the show.
Which is right now. So, I like this ship. I didn't used to like it, as we only ever saw it from an angle or two when I was younger, before all this internet stuff. And not being able to see it properly, in the show or a 3D model, it seriously limits what you think of a ship. Now, having learned all this new information and playing with it in 3D and, the physical model, I like it. It is a fun kit bash. I think it's definitely something Starfleet would have done, which I always love adding in the canon. I most like the feel of this ship, the speed, and the reverse roll bar just looks kind of cool. So yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I think this is a very cool design, very sleek and quite appealing to look at. And as anyone who follows Trekyards knows, I'm not really a huge fan of the Excelsior at all. So it's rather a funny thing for me to say that I like it, considering it has a lot of Excelsior aesthetics. But it cuts out all the parts of the Excelsior that don't work for me and make me hate it, I think. So it makes sense, in my opinion, that it's an older starship and not one scrambled together for the war. It's a nice marriage of the Reliant and Excelsior parts into a kit bash starship that really doesn't feel very kit bashy to me. But I think the thing I like most about it is the forward-facing shuttle bay. Definitely a cool idea.
And for me, since I recommended it, I think it's gorgeous. I find that it has all the advantages aesthetically that the Enterprise D doesn't. The D has that big saucer that hides everything else with the small nacelles. This one has the nice big nacelles that project out and back, and you see everything beautifully. I think it's simple. I think it's streamlined, stealthy, sexy, and stunning. The things I like the most are the struts and obviously the nacelles, and I think those nacelles give it its character. So I like it.
It's what I don't like, and you've always got to pick something you don't like. I would like to see the top of the saucer modified a bit more. Make it less obviously just an Excelsior. Although I do like the the bottom parts. I think the placement of the shuttle bay is a bold choice. And also I'd never really noticed it before filming this episode, but I really like it. Bold but fun. A cool extra piece. The nacelles I think are too long for the ship, although that is its charm. I don't know. The proportions I think are wrong for this ship, but that is the fun of it. So I'm going to leave my confusing mixed message with that. Yep.
All right, then. Yeah. I don't like the official in-canon story behind this ship. Like I said, I feel it fits very well into the timeline prior to the Dominion War. Why, you ask?
Why, Stuart?
Glad you asked.
You're welcome.
Because it makes sense, that's why. New Excelsior class developed and parts being made for it, so of course they would make a ship like this using those very new parts. Just like the Miranda class used refit Constitution parts to make a different class of ship, but still clearly and visually in the same fleet. It always sort of annoyed me that they were still using Excelsior class ships in TNG, because it's like 60 years later. And yes, I know that like the military, they would simply upgrade existing space frames with new tech, but be pumping out new Excelsior style engines and components in the TNG era. It just doesn't make sense to me. Repairing them, yes, or slowly upgrading or phasing them out, I understand. But to say we can build a new class of ship using all these parts really kind of seems silly to me. Now, having said that, I guess it is possible there is a shipyard out there somewhere with old engines floating around that still work because they were replaced with newer ones. So they could say, yes, let's throw a few ships together with all this stuff, but only a few, not as many as we actually saw in space battles. It just doesn't make sense to me. It just makes sense that there'd be like maybe 10 of these at the most.
Although, before Jake goes, can I put out a thing I thought while reading the script? So, you know how you just said all that? Well, what if they made the Centaur, they designed it when Excelsior came out, and then they had it for a few decades, liked it, but then new ships, I mean, obviously the Enterprise B and C, or the C anyway, the C is so different, obviously moved away from that aesthetic. What if then for the Dominion War, they're like, right, look back on our history, what is the quickest ship we've ever been able to build with the easiest parts to find? Maybe they brought it back into the fold, because like I say, it's just rebuilding parts, and as you say, maybe they've got a stockpile of the oldest stuff, so maybe it was a first wave in the original era and then a new wave for the Dominion War.
It's a distinct possibility. It could also be that it was originally developed and designed when the Excelsior was, and maybe a few of them were built, and then kind of it proved not as effective as they were hoping, or there were problems, which later they already had the designs, like you said, and they've worked out the kinks now, so now they can actually put them in production. Maybe that makes perfect sense. I don't know. Jake, what don't you like about the ship?
Well, if I had to choose one thing, it would have to be the saucer section. The back of the ship is so nicely streamlined that if we altered the saucer section and made it more like, say, the Enterprise E or something along those lines, it would extend and further enhance that sleekiness of the ship. So that's what I would probably change if I had to.
Yeah, I like that, actually. I never really considered that before you said that, but yes, with the more elongated saucer section, I think it would be a great looking ship. It would actually look more like the original design that Rick did for the Voyager, for the first one, with the underslung engines.
Oh, yeah.
Longer design. So I think that would be great.
So what you're saying is we had another kit bash with a sovereign saucer on a Centaur body. So even older design with newer design. Oh dear. Or better yet, Prometheus. Prometheus saucer. That'd look weird. Don't know.
Mean though.
Yeah, it would add an aggressiveness.
And that is it. So, Jake, any last thoughts on the Centaur or on this whole Trekyardsy business? Because, you know, we brought you on. Thanks for donating, all that jazz.
Well, this was fun. I really appreciate being able to offer a ship that I really enjoy, which is probably in my top 5. And it's fun having this talk back and forth with you guys and actually being on after watching you on TV, on TV, on my Apple TV all for so many months and pretty much the whole year. So thanks, guys. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it was great getting to know you a bit better. You've joined us for the Google Hangout and stuff, so you've always kind of been there from the beginning of Trekyards. So it's awesome to get to know you a bit better. Sorry we couldn't get you on video, even though we tried.
Oh yeah, did you guys ever?
And it's a good thing we're doing a making of a Trekyards video based on this episode, so people can see sometimes that there are problems, but
sometimes, yeah. But I've got to say, last note, great choice, Jake. Great choice.
Thanks.
Yeah, awesome ship. Alrighty, guys, that's it for today's episode. We would like to thank you, Jake, for joining us today and for selecting such a great ship to talk about, and of course for supporting us via the Indiegogo campaign. So thank you very much.
My pleasure.
It's always an honor to meet fans of the show and get to know them one-on-one. This was a cool episode to make. Hope you guys all enjoyed it. If you would like to support Trekyards yourself, please head on over to trekyards.com and click that donate button, or please visit our Trekyards Patreon page, which is going to be in the link in the description below, so that you can all make a difference each and every month and be our heroes. Also, please be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel, and watch our large backlog of videos by simply searching Trekyards on Google or YouTube. We also have the Trekyards Facebook group, which has new and interesting stuff to see and discuss, so we hope to see you all there. So until next time, this is Captain Foley.
And Commander Coggins.
And Jake Pelletier.
Signing off. See you later, guys.
Bye-bye.